Good morning, everybody. Pretty quiet open here. Not much moving. I haven't looked at too many stocks. Just looking at the markets, but yeah, pretty flat. Not going anywhere. And I suppose waiting for news, earnings, and so on. See what direction things might take. It's based on where they are and how they got there. Logic says that we're going to correct a bit the gains, either chopping sideways or a pullback. And as long as that pullback isn't deep, buyers will show up again. Just based on the way things moved up, they should go higher, but time will tell. Mr. Schizophrenic, this market has fooled us before. So NASDAQ futures. You can see the momentum had already stalled earlier in the week, and Monday here just trading inside Friday's range, which was just a whipsaw back and forth that went nowhere. Taking a look at the Qs, sometimes you get a little bit of a different perspective. Drag that up there. And it just came up to that next level. It did clear the pivot, which was a positive, and it moved up to that little congestion area. Corrective price action. We're at, let's call it 375-ish. It's trading right in the middle of Friday's range, going nowhere. And we talked about these pivots, highs and lows, and the sideways price action last week. And so Friday dipped down, but went nowhere. So new high failure, break here, begins to roll over. Up here, right where it left off. Just kind of sitting here waiting to see what direction prices might want to go in. Again, pretty quiet. You can see the 5-minute here just flipping back and forth. Pre-market. And just a little gap up and just quiet. No interest there at all. Take a look at spiders. Big screeching, stalling momentum. Candle body with the open and close, SPAC in the middle there. Tail on the top, tail on the bottom. It took out the high, took out the low. Closed where it opened, out in the middle of the prior day's range and that day's range. That is what I call hitting the wall as far as momentum goes. As prices pushed up, again, a run like that, gap up. That was the last Monday, initial move down, up, gap up. It's got to take a rest. It's what it should do. It's healthy if it does do it. The further prices go up without a rest, the faster they tend to come down. Positive gamma should grind sideways. McGraw, as much as we've discussed all that, I still don't get it. I can go back and read that stuff, but I just don't get positive gamma, rate of change. It's going to grind. You know what I look at this morning? That tells me likely the conclusion you're coming to anyway with this positive gamma thing. And I look at SPX and I look at where the premium is. My opinion today, unless you like a little adventure, I suppose, or adrenaline rush, the premiums are too close for comfort. So maybe that's a tell as far as a grind. How they have the premiums, because when they believe what we saw, down here, on this way up, because of the prior move, the premiums down below were huge. They were no brainers. And now, 4,500 after this is run up, 4,570 has some premium. That's absolutely too close. But after this run up, and we've got internals giving us a sell signal, even though this morning is starting out like, you could hear a pin drop, whatever could spark something to the downside, while that appears to be relatively far away, and I don't think it would get there, but I'm not willing to bet that it wouldn't with a sell signal. And these, as I've said before, don't turn on a dime to the upside. But I think buyers are going to be kind of sitting back a little bit, say, let it pull in, let it go sideways. Let's collect a little more information to assess whether things might pull back quite a bit. In the weekend letter, I went back and looked at last year and measured the pullbacks, how much it was. It actually pulled back twice as much as this pulled back percentage wise. But, while looking to see if there was a correlation between now and then, other than there being a corrective price action at this time, things were quite different, whereas prices whipped up and they whipped down within a trading range for a while. And when they came and they went, the second low that they made in October is where they made this kind of a rally. That was after chopping back and forth. Now, this had to move down and it chopped sideways for a while and had this. So there really wasn't a conclusive correlation as to whether this would result in what happened last year. Now, last year was, coming off of the pandemic and all of it that went with that, where things then started to grind higher for months and months. But if you go back and look at the charts back then, what you see is after the initial runoff of the low, it went all the way back down and then went all the way back up again. And it went up like this the second time. So the interesting part was the way this went up and the when that went up. And so looking at that to see, was there some correlation or something that made sense as to whether this price action maybe relates to that past price action? And I didn't come to any conclusive, point of view on that, other than to say, well, that's a powerful move up. But just like we talked about a wide range bar being a power bar, this being a power move is the weakest link, meaning there's nothing to stop it from coming down. So it has to create support. Now, whether it does it at this level or does it down here, which I'm sure you've recognized or looking at all the open interest, that looking out over multiple expiration dates, there's a lot of open interest around this area going out there. So that a pullback into this area should provide a floor. And we do have these overlapping bars. It's not much, but it's the most that there is because of the way prices went up. So it's quiet here. You want to take a shot at it's staying quiet? Well, you can do that. Down here, there was some premium at 40, 50 cents, not much, but, and then, you got to do some strike, whatever. So not a lot of money, and 45.70 certainly wasn't worth it either. So I would suggest standing aside unless you can monitor this intently and see which way it might go. All right. Dow is moving up a little bit, but trading inside the range, going nowhere, sideways, whipping back and forth here. Guy's titled YouTube, the market's tiptoeing into the trading day here, but not much going on. Russell just trading inside Friday's range. Markets, traders just waiting for some type of information. Yeah, there's lots of earnings, Pete, right? Lots of earnings coming out, this week. Amazon, Google, Facebook, they can be market movers. Exactly, William. And we could scroll back to there if you want to look, and probably some of my, I don't know if it's still on here. Was working on another page, but this was the top at that time, the gap up and wide range bar. Those of you that are advisory subscribers, you can go back and look at that letter, and you can see we said that it was a sell signal at that time, and prices came down and they whipped back up. And this is what I'm talking about. After the initial move up from the September low up to October, it came all the way back down. And at the end of October and at the beginning of November is where it made this kind of a run up where it gapped up, it gapped up, it gapped up, it gapped up before it stalled, and then chopped sideways before it started to advance. So it had this pullback and retest pattern where now it's just run up that way. So was this sideways consolidation? This was part of what I wrote about in that discussion, looking at these two events in time. Was this sideways consolidation over time enough of that corrective process versus something going up and going down? Time will tell. There isn't enough similarity to come to a conclusion. But what we do know at this time is that this was a powerful move. Our internals have given us a sell signal. It could chop sideways and work that off, or it might, who knows, it might pull back to here and turn. It might go all the way back down. We don't have any type of a candle, meaning like today, where even the open is absolutely nothing. But let's assume, say it gapped up here and it ended the day here. Well, that would be a clear bearish bar of a gap reversal and a range expansion suggesting prices would go lower. So repeating here, but as we start the week out, we've really got nothing here but to say, yeah, what Dave is saying, SOH. Well, it may not be an SOH day, but it's certainly an SOH sit on your hands open. And let's observe what goes on here for whatever, 5 minutes, sometimes things move fast, or maybe it's going to be 30 minutes. Thing is, we don't have any conclusive information related to the market indices as far as other things that might be moving. Dan will cover that. Okay, let's look at what else is going on here. Silver up at that resistance, stalled, natural place for it to do that. Gold is just so whippy. It looked great in the middle of the day on Friday, and then it gave the majority of it back, but didn't take out a prior bar's low. So it's just kind of grinding there. Maybe whippy price action. Crude oil just continues to be strong, which is positive for oil stocks, which underperformed last week. They were up on the week, but underperformed relative to other sectors. But they're still in strong uptrends. You could look at XLE for one. So it was up on the week, but didn't move as much as everything else, but it led the way up. So oil just looks like it's going to continue to go up. We discussed this last week in other pre-market videos about while this is a little short-term extended, it had several months of correction. And, while this moving averages get a little further apart, right, this corrective price action supports that it can go higher. Man. Bitcoin had a hell of a run. Look to the left, up there by that pivot high, backed off. Needs to correct a bit. Wide range bar igniting. no pullbacks. Notice no PLs here, no PL, meaning it was so strong it didn't even create a pivot low. So it's a sure sign of strength, but leaves little support. It's got a little congestion there, but demand, when it's that strong, you don't get pivots. And interest rates, it's kind of flip-flopping back and forth here. This little reprieve in this move up brought buyers into REITs and to a lesser extent utilities. But when you look at other yield curves, the 5-year, there's no pullback. And that is moving up at a pretty fast rate. And so looking at, let's look at some of these things moved around on me. 10-year. 10-year is not going up as fast as the 5-year. And the 30-year is going up, well, kind of slopping sideways. That's why TBT looks like it does. But initial move up on strength correcting. It's kind of pattern, and unless it fails, it should break out to the upside. So eventually that could be something that is not a positive for the market if these interest rates get too high. With all this inflation talk, it seems like a good possibility. Transports look amazing after doing nothing for the longest time and almost near the prior highs. So another reason to suspect that momentum would stall here as well. Just having this fluid, almost vertical move to the upside. And so everything looks like it's going to stall here for a while, correct a bit. We'll see how far it goes. But quiet morning. Don't press the accelerator until there's something that develops that suggests to press on it. At the time being, looks like we're going to be sitting back and watching for a little bit. Well, yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, so all our opens look fine. McGraw, I just looked at your DKS there. Looks good. I like it. Reverse head and shoulders, converging MAs, price void, gapping up. I like it. So, McGraw, I'm critical on a lot of things you get from other people, but it looks really good. I like it. YouTube's asking about a put spread on Tesla. The answer is no, unless it's under Thursday's low, because we're getting a 40-point gap up here. And it's we sell puts that are under major pivots, under support, and that price void is way too big now for me to chase. So no, not crazy about that. An Amazon credit spread. It's we actually had a 0 DTE on this. Worked out beautifully. If it's over Friday's high, that's okay. It's bearish pre-market here. That's relative weakness to the Qs, that's for sure, and spiders. Other FANG stocks, Facebook. Facebook is still under pressure here because of they're misleading, all that same story, which we know about. Google, yeah, there's a ton of 180 earnings this week. Yeah, a lot of the FANGs are reporting this week. Exactly right. And then Microsoft is, Facebook, Google here is a big mess. Apple needs to pull in. You got a big price void. Netflix, we still have a put spread. Now that one, I was saying that we re-entered it because it was close to support. Oliver, Twitter, another bearish day, and Argan. Twitter, yeah, it could be a day trade short. Yeah, maybe 10-minute. You know, typically we don't trade at all in the first 5 minutes of any day. And for me, I've just learned give it another 5 minutes on Mondays, just because you got more whipping around with the weekend orders and so forth. So maybe 10-minute low under the 10-minute low under the pre-market low. Twitter and Square CEOs came out and were tweeting. They're talking about hyperinflation. And Yellen came out over the weekend saying it's not a problem again. Of course, she and Powell and the rest of politicians are gonna say whatever they want to support their narrative. You know, the Dems are still pushing for their socialist bill, and now they're talking about taxing billionaires. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have that problem. I'm not a billionaire. I think they said there's only 700 billionaires, or as a lot in the US. We actually have a call spread on Square, gapping down, relative weakness looks good. Let's continue with gappers here. This thing's ripping up. There's been, and to me, it totally has the behavior of a SPAC. It's going too much now. Trump's SPAC is up again. What is that? DWAC bottom right. You know, it's actually setting up pretty nicely on the 15-minute chart with the pre-market data. That actually might get you give a day trade setup. SONM gapping up to 335. That's a big gap. So see, so that's a pro gap. A pro gap is one that ignites a new move, provided the gap, you know, holds and doesn't negate it. Look at the volume on yesterday's closing breakdown bar. So now all these people are holding losing positions. Oh, nice, Austin. Disney swing short. Yeah, Friday's low. Yeah. Yeah. Because then, you know, it'd be negating the small gap up today. Yeah, funds on my list here. Yeah, we were looking at that pre-market on Friday. That crazy move. But it could set up intraday. It's holding well. I just saw this thing going by the ticker. Redbox, RDBX. And so I didn't look it up, but my guess is this is a SPAC. Do you all remember those red boxes that you go to a 7-Eleven or Walmart or whatever, and it's you got a red box out there running movies? That was my next point, Stephen. Not in those words, but my next point was going to be, who on earth uses those things with movies on demand right at your house? So, you know, you got to look under the hood. Okay, they have streaming, so that answered part of it. Okay, I was going to say, you got to look under the hood and see what the heck they're doing. But, you know, it's another crazy move in a SPAC. Diego, XPEV. And Diego, see, I like when you all ask me what you're thinking, because Diego said intraday breakout. And so intraday means he's, you know, obviously not looking at it as a swing. I wouldn't touch this as a swing. But yeah, you know, same as I said on the other short, you know, wait 10, 15 minutes. If it can take out the high, yeah, that could be a day trade long. Greg mentioned XPH in the weekend letter. Nice bottoming pattern, daily, weekly. So that's, you know, we've had MT lives on bottoming patterns, right? And we like them to occur multi-week. maybe multi-month, and we like these 20 MAs to do exactly what they're doing with a price void. So that, yeah, that's a bottoming pattern that we should watch. I noticed MU gap in here. Doesn't have a great price void, the way it's stair stepping down. And it's been huge relative weakness to SMH, obviously. SMHs are actually dead freaking neutral right here. So that's not going to help the Qs. Oracle. Yeah, that's kind of a rising wedge. So it's still strong. Red bars ignored. So Thomas, maybe a day. It does look higher, but as Greg explained, I'm gonna be gun shy on new swing longs unless they're just fantastic looking, because so the internals. I mean, he explained it all. They don't turn on a dime, so on and so forth. But the reliability of the same setup is not as high as if the internals were not at a bearish extreme. That's just a fact, Jack. What do I got here? Hewlett Packard had positive mentions in Barron's, but no pattern. So it's bullish actually, daily, weekly, monthly. You just need an entry on the daily. That thing's way extended. HSBC. Oh, this had earnings. All right, earnings. It's an ADR, but it looks higher. It looks higher. Banks need a pullback though. I'm not chasing that thing far from the 20. Not me. FitB I like substantially better. That was in the weekend letter, so that's good to go. 5-minute high. That looks fantastic. FitB. My Ollie North alarm went off. I'll set a new alarm now at, maybe 67.45. I always use, if a company rhymes with something that's historically kind of well-known, popular, I'm sure new people say, why are you calling that Ollie North? Does everyone remember who Ollie North was? Exactly. I ran Contra. So I see the word Ollie and I just put North after it. All right. Greg, RCL alarm just went off. So we're looking at that as a put spread only.
I would buy it in for an intraday start.
Okay. All right, let me see what strikes we had. We wanted the 82.77. But yeah, 5-minute high we can do. Q's actually holding day trades. Q's are get a bullish 15-minute chart. All right, so the rule is 5-minute high. The RCL is 70 cents right now, so I'm going to say it's a go. So I'm sending a Telegram alert saying it's okay to do it now.